I love that song. It's from the YouTube audio library. The song is called Greeting the Day with a Smile. Such a pleasant and friendly song. Well, speaking of friendly, welcome to the very first Linux Newbies podcast right here on the Total OS Today Technology channel. I'm your host, Carmine, and you can catch me on YouTube. Just search TOS Today. My friends call me Toss. And this is the technology channel for beginners and beyond. Well, speaking of beginners, the first Linux Newbies podcast designed, well, for beginners to the world of Linux. I tried doing something like this, I guess 5 years ago. Some of you might remember the Linux A-Team podcast. We did only a few. We didn't really go anywhere. And I think part of the problem was trying to get different guests to come on live from different time zones. They were fun to do, but that only lasted a few episodes. And you would think, here we are as of this recording 5 years later, you would think there would be some sort of a Linux Newbies or a Linux Beginners podcast on the web. But I did a search. I could not find a single podcast for beginners. Now, there are some good podcasts which talk about beginners, mention beginners, give advice for beginners to Linux, but they don't solely focus on beginners. That is surprising. So I thought, well, let me try this again and just call this the Linux Newbies podcast. I thought about calling this the Linux Beginners podcast, Beginners to Linux podcast. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue as good as the Linux Newbies podcast. And let's face it, when we were all born, of course, we were all born as babies, and that automatically made us newbies. So in a sense, we are all newbies. So this is something that I'm going to try again. And once again, if you search the web, I didn't see any podcast that focuses on beginners to Linux. Now this will be something different. This series of podcasts, or this, hopefully, a series of podcasts will be strictly feedback-based, strictly subscriber-supported. So if this is something that you would like to hear on a continual basis, either recorded or live, I wouldn't mind doing these live as part of the live Total OS Today live events. Now this first podcast, vidcast, whatever you want to call it, will be on YouTube. The future ones, if I do any more, will be available as a download. You can go to archive.org and search Total OS Today or TOS Today or Linux Newbies, and we'll see how it goes from there. And let me just say that I am a Windows user that promotes Linux, because Linux, at least a few of the Linux desktops, they work terrific, and it can be an alternative or as a replacement to your Windows desktop. Now, I've been doing this for quite a few years, and I can tell you as a Windows user, yes, some of those Linux-based operating systems run very well, and they compete with Windows. And I know that some of you, maybe a lot of you, I don't know, I don't have exact numbers. I know that at least some of you have replaced your Windows desktop with some form of a Linux desktop. And I think that's awesome. For me, it's an alternative. It's a choice. And I dual boot. I've tried countless Linux distros trying to see which one works the best. Now, if you are new to this, you're probably thinking, what's a distro? What's a dual boot? And maybe some of this sounds like, that's okay. If you are a newbie, you have come to the right place. And I hope to do many more of these types of podcasts. Well, that's all I have for this one. Please post your comments below in the show notes. And let's do some more of these Linux Newbies podcasts. This is Total OS Today, Total Technology for beginners and beyond. That's all I have for this one. Enjoy your day.